If I can just somehow embody this idea, it's interesting to me. If I can't, then it's mental masturbation. I believe that in your heart, you yourself know deep down that there is a right and there is a wrong action in your heart. Now, that's not very intellectual for me to say, but show me one human being on this earth who doesn't have that in their physiolosophy. Show me one person who doesn't have. You want to say Hitler? Well, go read his stuff. He thought he was ridding the world of an anti-Darwinian people, which is us. I'm not Sephardic, obviously, but I totally get them more than I get the Ashkenazi crowd. But I've been given like a lot of Ashkenazi in me for sure, but I really believe in physiolosophy. And so when I hear debates, like I listen to a lot of the intellectual dark web and stuff, and I hear debates, sometimes I feel like I don't know how to say it exactly. You know, it would be like Sam Harris versus Jordan Peterson or whatever. Sam Harris versus, what's that guy, the Jewish guy with the kippah on his head? Ben Shapiro. When I hear these debates, I understand the logic. I follow the logic. Like I'm also Ashkenazic. You know, I can follow these discussions. So can Sephardim, by the way. That wasn't meant to be that Sephardim can't, but meaning I'm from the line of people who think their way in and out of everything, as opposed to feel their way in and out of everything. But I hear those arguments, and I really don't know how to articulate this, but I know they're wrong sometimes. I know they're wrong, and I think I even know how to explain they're wrong. But I'm going to have to explain they're wrong in a way that, by the way, I'm not here to make anyone wrong. I don't want anyone to be wrong, but it could be what they're saying really could be harmful. Obviously, the atheist camp can say some things that I believe would be harmful. But even the believer camps can say things that leave gaping holes in someone who is more of a physiolosopher would never have said. And it's a really talking head point that a believer might have said that a physiolosopher would never have gone there. But if a physiolosopher could have been in the mix of that debate, he could have taken it down a totally different track. And I'm blessing myself to stand on that platform, on the world platform one day, to be able to articulate those things. Because I believe that's where people live. I believe that's where people live, really, more than anywhere else. And that it's got a bigger, I think it even will have a bigger reach if we can somehow articulate the physiolosophy. You know, and there's also, I might have a lack of knowledge on this, but like, for example, the atheist camp, they always have to deal with morality. That always comes up, because that's the attack. The attack on the atheist is, why do you have a moral voice in your head? And so they would say, there's probably multiple answers. One might be Darwinistic, meaning it's just been genetically better to be good. Being good just preserves the race better. Now, you could throw a million rocks at that one, because we've seen a lot of people do really bad things who should have been on the genetic high end of things and have made terrible mistakes. Grievous acts. And but another one of their answers might be that it's that socially it has a long-term good effect, in that enough of humanity would agree that that it's good socially. It's whatever it is, meaning it's not really good. It has no intrinsic good. It's just that society works better when people behave in this particular way. And I've heard that said a lot.
What's like a little example of that?
Like not killing,
Right.
or not stealing, or maybe speaking nicely, or returning a lost object. I don't know. It's just better to do that, and then you feel better, and then society feels better because there's another person walking around with positive energy because they just returned a lost object, even though they don't believe it's good. You understand? They don't believe it's a good thing to do. They don't, because ultimately on the serious, like, razor cut atheism is you can't call anything good or bad. That's what Darwin himself said. Darwin himself said you just got to go with, like there is nothing but your desire at that moment. And they would say, well, but being good will feel better because society works better that way. It's nice to return lost objects. And I mean, nice is already a value as well, but society works better with people's objects staying in their originally owned position, i.e. the guy who owns it should get it back. So what's the answer? What would my answer be? So my answer would be, first of all, I would give that to them 100%. If I were in a debate, in debate, one of the important things in debate is give them that. So I would give them that. I would say, yeah, I think you're right. However, I believe that in your heart, you yourself know deep down that there is a right and there is a wrong action in your heart. Now, that's not very intellectual for me to say, but show me one human being on this earth who doesn't have that in their physiolosophy. Show me one person who doesn't have. You want to say Hitler? Well, go read his stuff. He thought he was ridding the world of an anti-Darwinian people, which is us. Because we believe having less is more. As we all know that one of our commandments is to give up at least 10% of your income, no matter what it is, after taxes, obviously, but to give it up. Now, they could always say that, well, that's socially Darwinian in that it's good for society as a whole, but that's not, you don't see that so much. I mean, you do see it a bit in the animal kingdoms that they're taking care of the tribe, but it's a bit of a hard thing to pull off, to say that whatever that ant is doing right now is like, you're right, it is good for the whole tribe of ants, but it's really hard to argue that that particular ant had the tribe in mind. You understand? So it's also the same with us, is that all of these choices deep down, I'm going to go back to my answer. My answer would be that we all have in our hearts a right and wrong. And when we do the right, we feel better. And when we do the wrong, we feel worse. And I want to say another thing that's very important, I think, for everyone listening right now, and that is that you think you have a challenge with keeping Judaism, if you're Jewish. I mean, there might be people here not Jewish, and obviously listeners who aren't Jewish, but you think you have a challenge, let's just say doing the right things. Forget the fact that we have about like 55,000 more laws than the Gentiles. But so let's just call it right thing, and everyone who's Jewish should have in mind 55,000 laws. But you think you're having a challenge with that? I don't believe you're having a challenge with it. You know what I believe? I believe you're having a challenge being a person with well-being. Meaning that you have something called a misery comfort zone. Something that Eckhart Tolle, I call it the misery comfort zone in my work, but Eckhart Tolle in his manifesto called A New Earth calls the pain body. The pain body. And I call it the misery comfort zone. But if you feel better when you listen to the heart, if you feel better when you listen to your heart, and you feel worse when you breach your own inner contract, if you find yourself challenged with doing the right things, it's probably because you prefer misery. For whatever reason, you're addicted to pain. You still haven't gotten to the point where you eat right, and you exercise right, and you're just like, your tolerance for less than great is high. Your tolerance for less than living an awesome life is high. Well, there are people who have gotten themselves out of that, and I'm one of them, who've gotten themselves out of that. And I don't have a lot of tolerance for less than well-being. And if that's really good, by the way, to have a low tolerance. A lot of people think they want a high tolerance for, let's say, stress. You don't want a high tolerance for stress. That's a good way to die suddenly at your desk at 55 years old. You don't want a high tolerance for stress. You want a low tolerance for stress. Anything stressful, you should notice it immediately before your body starts getting little, what do you call those things? Clicks? What are they called? Yeah, but there's another term for it. What? Ticks. Before your body's already getting ticks, you know. You should have a low tolerance for stress so that when there's something stressful, no matter how small it is, you can now look at that thing and say, am I at the right party right now if I'm feeling this way? Maybe tonight was not a social night. And me sticking it out here, maybe I should just go up to the person making the joyous occasion and give them a congratulations or a mazel tov and get the hell out of here, because this is not the night for that. I need a hot bath right now because I've been overdoing it, and it was not the right choice. And so a low tolerance for stress, basically a low tolerance for any lack of well-being, is the goal. And it could very well be that your whole challenge with doing the right thing has nothing to do with doing the right thing. Who wouldn't want to do the right thing? You feel great every time you listen to that little moral compass in your heart. You feel great. You always feel great. Well, what if you did it again? What if you did it the next day? And then in the afternoon? And then in the evening? And then late at night before you went to bed, you did something good. And what if you did it the following day, and the following day, and the following day? Well, how would your life turn out? And what would be the cumulative effect for your life? And the answer is your life would be awesome. And you'd be infectious for others who would want to be, just teach me the way, man. And the way isn't necessarily doing the right thing. The way deep down is lowering your tolerance for scrap without the S. But all of us, unfortunately, have a high tolerance for scrap to the point where we think it's normal. And we perpetuate it ourselves. We attract it into our lives. And I'm here 28 years, man. I've seen a lot of people come and go. We hit, last year we hit 200,000 people coming through this building. I've seen a lot of people in here over the years, 28 years worth. And I mean, you can imagine, I'm like a YouTube algorithm watching who gets traction with their Judaism and who doesn't. Who gets traction, who doesn't. And I can tell you for sure that there's a direct correlation between people with a low tolerance for a lack of well-being. In other words, they have a high tolerance. A low tolerance for a lack of well-being. What's a better way of saying it? Basically, their desire is well-being, and they're committed to it. That there's a direct correlation from those people and them getting traction in a tradition that's like very demanding and expensive. Just ask me. I'm marrying off 2 of 8. Number 2 of 8 this coming week. Everyone's invited. Well, thank you very much. Listen, Rodney Dangerfield said the best thing about having kids is making them. So I'll tell you the truth, you should clap. And my wife and I, when we marry off a kid, I'll tell you, we say mazel tov to each other in a totally different way. Totally different way, because our mazel tov to each other is that we took that newborn and handed her off at 20 years old to a man who's committed to holding her heart forever. And no man's ever held her heart except for me and her brothers. We're handing her off to someone who's going to hold her heart forever. Committed to Torah and mitzvahs with joy. A Pilates instructor. An interior designer. Meaning we took it was originally a fetus, but we took this infant all the way. Oh my gosh, my in-law. He's calling to say, oh my gosh, my watch still thinks I'm doing yoga. Had a great yoga session. Anyway, 5-hour yoga session. So, but listen carefully to this. Listen carefully to this. The word in Yiddish for son-in-law, this is going to freak you out. The word in Yiddish for son-in-law, anyone know it? Son-in-law? Anyone know it? It's Adim. Adim. The word for son-in-law, it's not really Yiddish, it's Hebrew. The word for son-in-law in Yiddish is Adim. You know what that means, Adim? What's the word Edut mean? What are Adim? Witnesses or testimony. Son-in-law is testimony? Like, what? What is that? What's the connection? And this is why my wife and I say mazel tov to each other. It's because a son-in-law is testimony you took care of your daughter. That's what a son-in-law is like. Boom. Son-in-law is testimony you took care of your daughter. Daughter-in-law? Just a headache. Competition. Daughter-in-law is competition. You know, my wife was friends with my mother before she became my wife. They were friends. My wife was my mother's madricha on a program that was called Israelite. And she was her madricha, and they really got tight until I married her madricha. At which point, it was pure vicious competition for my attention. And I was like, what happened all of a sudden? So you know what I did? I did this. I've done this with a few people. Is I took them, and you can try this at home, by the way. I took the two of them, and I put them in a room and locked the door from the outside. And right before I shut the door, I said, you'll leave as friends. But you're not coming out of there until then. Oh, you could have, I wish I had a recorder just for the tears and everything going on in there. And I was like, after a while, I was like, I think I need to bring food. So I just like quickly unlocked and like put a couple sandwiches on the floor and like closed it and locked it. But the two of them have been like best friends since that day. I mean, I was not going to let them out of there. They had to talk it out. Anyway, when the fear factor hits, so we get intellectually dishonest. I went way deeper than that today. Way deeper than that. But just in conclusion, I just want to go a little deeper on that. And that is that, what is the number one fear? And we got a couple takers, Joseph, and what's your name back there? Eris. We had a couple takers that, now it means like I got to do this stuff, and et cetera. And we spoke that out. But I want to go even deeper, is that if you have to do that stuff, well, then your lifestyle is going to shift. And if your lifestyle is going to shift, the people who are more important to you than your lifestyle, i.e., the people who make you feel like you're not just a piece of garbage, are going to get upset that you've changed your lifestyle. And so you wind up on a scale of like, I can do the right thing and lose my support group, which is, and the craziest thing about this is the closer they are to you, the more they get upset. Meaning if acquaintance finds out that you shifted your lifestyle, an acquaintance, what do they say? Good for you. The closer they get, the more they are threatened by your shift in lifestyle, and you become threatened to lose your support group. In other words, more important to you than truth, more important to you than the search for knowledge and truth and reality, and is there a God, is there not a God, is Torah truly prophecy, or is it man-written? Like, all that search means nothing compared to someone saying to you how much they love you or how beautiful you are or what an amazing, whatever you get out of having your family be patting you on the back is more important to you than truth. And until you recognize that, your search for truth is stunted. Your search for truth is a joke. Until you get real with the fact that your search for truth isn't real. Your search for truth is back to philosophy. It is a, I'm not going to say that again, what I said about mental, we'll just call it MM. Yeah? Your search for truth isn't really true. Because if the answer in the end of the search was there's something called truth, and you had to change your lifestyle as a result, your issue isn't changing your lifestyle. If you won the lottery, your lifestyle would change a bunch and you'd love every minute of it, and so would your family. But if your search for truth leads to losing your family's adulation, well, you'd rather have their adulation than truth. And if you're wondering why the world's so screwed up, well, I just explained it. Thank you very much. Shalom. Wait. Two more things. I hope you enjoyed that. Three more things. One of those things is four more things. If you like this, subscribe, share. Please let your friends see it. Another thing is there is good news, by the way, that if you freak your family out on your search for truth and you found truth and you switched your lifestyle and they freaked, you should know they all come back in the end because they start to realize later that you're still their kid or you're still their sister or their brother. They all come around. It takes about a year or two. They all come around because blood's thicker than values in the end. The family blood will last longer than your new lifestyle. Meaning, not that you're going to lose your lifestyle. It's just that they're going to just get over themselves. And especially when grandkids come around. The other thing I want to say is that this rabbi over here feeds a family every Shabbos. He's going to go around he's got. He takes on himself to feed a family in Jerusalem every Shabbos. This class feeds him. If it folds, it buys like fish or meat. Challahs, if it jingles, it'll buy drinks, stuff like that. And it's nice to have Shabbos knowing that there's a family eating partially because of you. So that's the rabbi over here. And that's Thursday tzedakah. And the other thing was, is Rabbi Ellis is teaching now. What are you teaching? Oh, another rabbi's teaching. You know what he's teaching? What? What? He forgot. Shalom, everybody.